Hey all, Sanavi here, and I know it's been a minute, but today I'm super pumped to talk about my plans for the upcoming 3.25 league start. And I know what you're thinking. With all the changes to Melee, everyone's talking about slam builds. But me personally, I like to take the road less traveled. So for this league, I'm going back to one of the OGs, the Cyclone Slayer. And I'm going to put the POB in the description. It includes the three versions of the build that I currently have, which is a starter, a mid-game crit conversion, and a very expensive endgame setup. So real quick, just taking a look at the starter setup, we are going for something that is relatively tanky, but also does as much damage as we can reasonably get, considering that we're using Resolute Technique. For the defenses, we're mostly going for spell and attack block. With the changes to Versatile Combatant, instead of it reducing our block chance down to 50, it reduces it now down to 65. So by taking these clusters over here for staff, as well as using a Rumies, we can essentially block cap at 65, which is really nice. For other defenses, it's a Slayer, so we're going with Leech. We're picking up the 10% instant Leech here. We are not going for Vow Pact. This is kind of a trap because it doesn't let you recover life from anything else besides Leech, which means we wouldn't benefit from life regen. And with all of the degen in the game right now, that's just not a move I want to make. So we're just going to pick up the 10% Leech here, that's instant. We get Leech from this wheel, as well as this physical wheel up here. So that, with life regen, with our spell block, with our capped resistances, it should make this build feel relatively tanky. In terms of damage, it's pretty straightforward. We just kind of pick up physical damage clusters like this one here and this one below, as well as this cluster over here. We are going to try to play around with the new rage mechanic, so I am picking up this rage wheel right here to cap rage at 40, as well as nearby enemies are intimidated while you have rage. This should just give us a constant set of rage while we are progressing through maps. We're going to be cycloning and spinning, so we shouldn't ever really be losing rage. We're also picking up, this rage cluster right here, which gives us another 6+ to maximum rage and more rage gain. So that should be a nice, just static buff to the build that we constantly have. And then in terms of mana cost for our abilities, we are using a crafted affix right here for -3 to the total mana cost, as well as the new mana clusters right here and here. With this setup, it gets us to 0 mana cost on our Cyclone, which is really nice. It means that we can spin to win all day and not have to worry about the cost. Yeah, looking at the skill setup, it's your typical Impale, Shockwave, Cyclone. We're using Cyclone of Tumult because it gives us a wider radius on our Cyclone, as well as more damage. To negate the negative aspect of this with the ramping decrease in movement speed, we're using Stampede Boots, which just sets our static movement speed, in this case, at 50%. So we're always just going to move 50%, whether we're cycloning or not. We're doing a typical cast when damage taken with Molten Shell. For our auras, we're running Pride, Blood Rage for Frenzy Generation. War Banner is going to be our new totem. Just get used to the fact that if you're playing a melee build, you're probably going to play War Banner, and you're going to place it whenever you're fighting like a boss or a really juiced rare. Also going with Herald of Purity and Blood and Sand. We are doing at least in the starter version, a manual curse with vulnerability, and then Enduring Cry is mostly here for if I need a heal because I take too much damage. We're not using it to generate endurance charges because we have Disciple of the Unyielding on the Stampede Boots, which is going to give us endurance charge generation off of enemies that we kill. This could be a bit of an issue when we're bossing, but I'm not planning to do real bossing on this build. This is just going to be killing map bosses, so they should die very quickly. We shouldn't have to worry about really needing endurance charges. Forgot to mention defensive layer. I am on all versions of these builds going for the additional 3 endurance charges from the tree. So we've got that 6 endurance charge, which is giving us that 24% elemental damage reduction on top of the fact that we're already spell block chance capped at 65. So once again, should feel pretty tanky. And that's pretty much it for the starter build. Basic Fizz Staff, Resistance Life Gear pretty much. We are going with a Death Rush Ring. This does give us Adrenaline, which is kind of nice, and the Recovery Life on Kill. The coil is going to be expensive. I have it in all of my build setups. This is just one of those things where, you know, as soon as you get the currency, whether you get lucky with drops or you're really good at flipping or you're really good at just making currency, like I have my farming strats, I know how I'm going to make currency really early on. This is just an item that's worth investing in. You're going to use it in your melee build. And then, yeah, basic gems for just chaos resistance in life really is the most important thing. And that's about it for the starter build. I'm going to swap over to the mid-game crit conversion. Now for this is just kind of segueing into crit and getting away from Resolute Technique. Our damage basically triples. I am still, once again, trying, at least with this version of the build, to keep it block capped and keep it really tanky. The idea behind this is, you know, I'm going to see how well this plays in T17s since they've nerfed them. But yeah, the idea behind going this, you know, progressing this way is that we'll now start doing T17s and, you know, juicing maps and whatnot. So for this, once again, we're using that mana trick to get the 0 cost to our Cyclone. I forgot to mention this, I should have it on my starter tree. We're also picking up this Fortify wheel for defenses, so our melee hits Fortify. We get the additional fortification stacks. I have this on all of my builds, so just another layer of defense. We have fortification also on top of everything else. But for the crit build, same thing. We're taking the block nodes over here for staff, as well as versatile combatant. We're going into the rage generation still, so that we can have that passive kind of buff to everything. And then one of the other things I'm also doing is trying to keep my life relatively high, at least for a setup like this, so around 5,000 life. I could probably try to scale it more, but I'm trying to also get as much damage as I can. So yeah, that's really about it. We just kind of pick up some crit nodes, like the crit multiplier here, the crit multiplier here, as well as these 2 extra nodes on the staff here for more crit multi. And that's pretty much, oh, and then this is a pretty big one right here, Eagle Eye for the accuracy and a little bit of crit chance. So that's pretty much it for the tree in terms of changes. The gear is going to see a lot of changes, so we switch to a better Fizz Staff that has crit mods on it. We're picking up an Abyssus. This should be fine because of all of our defensive layers. That increased physical damage taken shouldn't really hurt us as much. And this is huge crit multiplier for like any melee build that you play, so we definitely want to pick that up. We're still using Stampede, but we're now anointing it with Whispers of Doom because we're going to run 2 curses, which I'll get to in a second. And then just a better chest piece. Mostly the rest of our gear is just swapping over to crit mods so that we can scale our crit damage. Noticeable difference on the rings is we are using a Warlord influence to get that curse enemies with vuln on hit. So that way everything that we touch gets vulnerability. And then because, like I said, we're using Whispers of Doom on Stampede, we are now running a mark on hit Assassin's Mark. So we have that dual curse on everything we touch. So the idea once we go crit conversion is it's going to feel a lot better, obviously because we're doing more damage, but we're just going to spin to win. Everything is going to get double cursed. It's going to be wonderful. And then we get, whenever we come across like a really juiced rare or, you know, a boss that we got to kill, the only additional thing we have to do is put down a war banner, and that's it. That's all we have to do. Spin to win and war banner. As far as the items go, we're still using Arumis, obviously for the block chance, and then just some better jewels with crit mods on them now. And that's pretty much it for the gear. If you can get it at this point, it'd be worth investing in a coil that has a pride implicit on it just to scale more damage, but those are going to be very expensive. Just a regular coil, if you can get it, will be just fine. And then for the skills, just better 2120 gems. We're not getting into the Awaken stuff yet. For our auras, we're now running an Enlighten on our aura setup because we need to squeeze in a precision so that we can scale more crit chance and accuracy. And then as I mentioned, Assassin's Mark with Mark on hit, our war banner. For our movement, I kind of didn't touch on this on the starter build. So we're using Leap Slam, but we're also using Frostblink. So whichever you prefer. The only reason I have MAIM connected to these is once we get into the crit build, for whatever reason POB is not calculating the chance to MAIM enemies when you crit them, which we're going to be critting constantly. So I just threw that on the Leap Slam temporarily so that in the config it's targetable right here so we can see the damage. That's it. You don't actually need that link there. And that's pretty much it for the mid-game crit conversion build. For the last version, the Endgame that I'm putting together, this is going to be very expensive, but so far it's looking pretty promising. I'm still going to play around with this because I feel like there's a lot more I can do with it. But currently we're looking at around 60 million sheet damage. We still have capped resistances. Kind of had to move away from Versatile Combatant in the block nodes, which I'm not too happy about. I'm going to still try to figure that out. But for right now, we went away from that. But we're still doing fortification. We still have pretty decent sheet EHP, but to kind of take this with a grain of salt, this is kind of like a trick stat to look at. It's not usually reflective, so I wouldn't take that 100%. You got to play builds and see how they feel and make adjustments. Some noticeable differences on the tree here for the endgame version. We are slotting in a Light of Meaning just so we can get a lot of that physical damage, like the new Parandus Pact. We are also pretty much the rest of it's still the same. We're still going for the same crit nodes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We basically moved away from the block nodes and Parandus Pact for our jewels. And then we're also using a Watcher's Eye down here to scale Pride damage and Impale. But the tree is not that much different that you can see from the mid-game conversion. We just move away from the block, and we, well, yeah, I did make some changes, sorry. So we dropped some of the physical nodes. It does look like we're picking up some rage here. So we take some of these nodes away to invest more in some rage down here. But that's about it for that. For the items, this is where it's going to just be like lots and lots of divines. But, you know, Corrupted Abyssus with a life mod, a super juice staff, we're talking like 12 to 1300 Fizz DPS, and just, you know, increased explicit physical modifiers. We're looking at like a Redeemer, a Warlord Hunter chest for that, you know, attack crit, and the additional curse we'll get that here. So this will be kind of pricey to craft. I'm running with these Celestial Brace gauntlets. These are actually really nice because they give us additional damage reduction with the extra fortification, and also give us a lot of attack speed for damage. So these are really good, especially if you can get a corrupted pair with that implicit for more attack speed. Your typical like elusive tailwind boots, kind of a juiced amulet with lots of crit mods and additional levels of skill gems. Rings aren't too much different in this setup. I still want that Vuln on hit. And then obviously a Mage Blood setup with all of our flasks taken care of, and then just better rolled jewels. So, you know, very expensive gear, but, you know, that's what it is when you're investing in scaling a build as far as you can. And then the skills are just swapping out, you know, Awakened gems as necessary. Otherwise, the gem setup is about the same. So this final version of it is going to be unrealistic for a lot of people. But the mid-game should be very doable. For me, this is where I'll probably be by the end of week 1. And I think this is pretty good for a Cyclone Slayer. I'm going to be pretty happy, I think, with running a Cyclone Slayer this league start. So yeah, that's my plans. I might stream a bit. I might do some videos to showcase some stuff like I've done in the past. I just wanted to make this quick video to talk about Cyclone because I know a lot of people are talking about slams right now. Slams are going to be very powerful, especially with war cries. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a large part, if not the major part of the melee meta. But there are skills like Cyclone that got buffed, and they're not going to be, godly like some other builds, but you're going to be able to do all content, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to spin to win again. So yeah, that's all I've got for you right now. I'll make some videos in a week or so if this goes somewhere, and I think it's worth showing off some changes I make to the build and what you might be able to do with it. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.